Good evening, everybody. Welcome into 48 Weather Extra. I've got a special treat for you tonight. We're going to talk about my trip down to the Tropical Weather Conference in South Padre. I got a whole story about that. You can even see me catching a big old fish coming up. We're going to talk about forecast for tomorrow. We're going to talk about the hurricane season beginning June 1st, how we are expecting a slightly above normal season. We'll tell you why, and really the peak of it won't happen until probably late in the summer like it usually does, but there's different reasons this year. There is no El Nino. We had La Nina last year. We're having neutral INSO this year. That may not make a lot of sense to you, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I'll try to explain it to you coming up. But as far as the weather out there tonight goes, after we talk about hurricane season, we'll take a break, and then we'll talk about your 10-day forecast, and we'll talk about Easter. 62 degrees out there right now. Katie's checking in from Florence. We got Underwood, Petersville area watching, Robin in, and Fort Payne. Adam checking in again. Adam Wooten checking in again from Fort Payne. It's a Wednesday night. We're halfway through the work week, and it's looking pretty good as far as the forecast goes. We've got a clear sky out there now. We had a few clouds come in and had a pretty cool looking sky appearance out there early on. Temperatures generally in the low 50s in Jackson, DeKalb counties, down into Marshall County 55. You get towards the larger inner city areas, and that's where we're seeing temperatures holding in the 60s. Overnight lows will be in the 40s. So the next 12 hours, we'll be dropping into the upper 40s, 51 degrees at 7 a.m. A real nice warm up tomorrow, light southerly winds, and nothing we could do about the pollen. We'll just grin and bear it and drink more water, right? Water. I can't drink coffee this time of night. A little ice in it, too. We got the Sonic ice here at the station. That's the cool ice. So tomorrow, 70 at 11 a.m., a really warm day tomorrow, close to 80. I think you'll probably hit 80 out in the shoals. Satellite radar not showing much here, but as we take a look down in the Caribbean, north of San Juan, north of east of the Turks and Caicos, a few flare-ups of showers and thunderstorms. But things are very quiet as we go out farther into the Atlantic. Usually not much happens in the Atlantic this time of year anyway. And we're going to talk about, what's that?
Do you want the screen on there?
Oh, not yet, not yet. Oh, you know what?
Wait.
I totally messed this up. We're going to go backwards, and we're going to start over again.
Click fade on
Yeah, fade.
Yeah.
You got it.
No.
All right, so there's your forecast the next 12 hours. It is chilly out there, isn't it? I don't have the David Paul pool put in yet, but you're going to see David Paul coming up in the video here in a second. Quick look at tomorrow's forecast. 78 degrees at 3 o'clock, 75 at 7. And satellite does show a few clouds around here tonight. Had a really cool cloud as I was driving home for dinner, and a couple of sprinkles, but that's about it. Here's the satellite I was talking about. You get north of San Juan, we've got some clouds out there too, a weak disturbance, but there's not much out there off the coast of Africa. So with that, we're going to talk about my trip down to South Padre. Let's see if I can get this playlist here, and we are going to fade over, and you're going to hear that. I recently got back from the Tropical Weather Conference down in South Padre, Texas, South Padre Island. Always a good time. I try to get a little fishing in on the Laguna Madre whenever I can as well. They've got some good red fishing down there, and a lot of the trout, pretty good eating too. We talked a lot about hurricanes, of course, Tropical Weather Conference. I was able to catch up with Dr. Phil Klotzbach, and he's from the University, Colorado State University, and he does his earliest Atlantic season outlook in April. He'll do another one in the middle of summer, and then the last one coming up in the fall. And what we're seeing is an increased threat for an above normal season. It may not take off right away, but we are expecting above normal, especially as we get into September and October.
Yeah, so we are forecasting an above normal hurricane season in 2025, a total of 17 named storms. Of those 17, 9 becoming hurricanes. Of those 9, 4 becoming major category 3, 4, 5 hurricanes. Compared with last year, we are forecasting an above normal season, but not as much activity as we forecast and what we observed last year, where we ended up with 11 hurricanes and 5 major hurricanes. A couple of big factors going into that. One is we don't anticipate El Nino this summer and fall. El Nino is warmer than normal water in the central and eastern tropical Pacific. When that occurs, it tends to shift where thunderstorms form in the Pacific in such a way that it increases winds high up in the atmosphere in the Atlantic that tear apart hurricanes. So El Nino is good for us, bad for the hurricane. We don't anticipate an El Nino this summer and fall. The Atlantic, thankfully, is not as warm as last year at this time, but it's still running a little bit above normal. So generally, if we don't have El Nino and the Atlantic's a bit warmer than normal, we end up with a somewhat above normal season, which is what our current forecast is.
Last year we had such a big break. We're anticipating September. You ring the bell in August, and you're like, we're ramping up. Everybody's prepared, and then nothing happened, and all of a sudden it exploded in late September, early October.
Yeah, it was a really unusual season. So it was defined as a hyperactive season last year, but it was an extremely unusual way that it got there. We had the earliest Category 5 on record in Hurricane Beryl. Started off really, really busy. We had Debbie and Ernesto, 2 other hurricanes. So we had 3 hurricanes by the middle of August, which is a lot. And then the season, when normally the season ramps up, it got extremely quiet. We had a kind of very pronounced 5-week lull. And then basically when the lull ended, it just blew up. And we obviously had a very busy end of the season and unfortunately 2 extremely impactful hurricanes in Helene and Milton.
One thing about Hurricane Milton, this was after Helene, who just devastated the Carolinas, a fast-moving hurricane, and it led to a lot of flooding in that area as well. That got a lot of news, but Milton set the record for the number of tornadoes. They had 46 tornadoes down with Hurricane Milton in Florida, and it began just before midnight, October 8th, and went through October 9th. So they even had an EF3 tornado with that. So Milton on the satellite, a lot of lightning and those big thunderstorms, far-reaching impact down into South Florida, a long way from where the storm actually made landfall. And then again, this one just missed Tampa as well, a direct hit there. So very, very good for them. But I also talked to Dr. Phil about the early season hurricane development. Usually we get a lot of storms that don't quite make it to hurricane status, but they can cause a lot of problems down there on the Gulf. And what happens is they usually develop along the tail end of a frontal boundary. And he says those are a lot harder to predict. I wish we could predict those a little bit better this far out, but because a lot of you getting ready to go on vacation down there along the Gulf after school is out.
Yeah, you can get early season storm activity, especially in the western part of the basin, so the western, or basically in the Gulf or right off the east coast of the United States. We don't have a lot of predictability at being able to forecast exactly, if one of those storms is going to form, say, months in advance. Certainly once it gets closer, you can start to be able to forecast those, but they often will form off of like the ends of cold fronts or something when they kind of get like your late season frontal activity before summer really kicks off. And then typically once you get into August is when you start to see more kind of healthier, stronger storms develop.
So just to summarize, we are expecting an above normal season in the Atlantic Basin, but a majority of this may not happen until we get past the month of August. Still plenty of time for that. But again, we're always going to have those early season storms down in the Gulf. If you are planning your vacation after school gets out, that's pretty much going to be it for the hurricane season so far. I'll update you later on as we get closer to the actual hurricane season itself. That's David there. We go fishing. That was one of those trout we caught. We limited out on redfish, and we limited out on trout as well. So we did the trout first and had a great time down there again in the Laguna Madre down there in South Texas. Here are the 2025 storm names. We're actually going to have a Hurricane Karen this year, maybe. So that brought my attention. I think it's on there. Yeah, Karen, under Jerry. One thing I really noticed a lot of these is they're easy to pronounce, so that's good. So we've got a Rebecca in there. We've got an Olga in there. We've got an Aaron in there. So Umberto is back. Again, what they do is they'll go through and rotate the list. Helene and Milton were retired. There was another one that was retired last year, and they retire them once, if they do significant damage or are very memorable. Tell you what, we're going to take a commercial break, and then I'm going to be right back with a look at your Easter forecast. We're going to break that down for you. They do, don't they? All right. Again, good fishing trip down there. Dave was talking about that as well. I'm going to put some of your comments up here. So, again, we're going to talk about more about the weekend forecast. And I mentioned earlier, you know, pictures are better on a cloudy day. So maybe your Easter pictures will be pretty good out there. I've noticed that when I take pictures of my car for the car shows. And the good ice, yeah. So again, just something I want to bring. I'm going to be doing more of those kind of videos once I get my studio at home and the garage built. I'm going to have a lot more time to do that. Now it's really out there just getting everything else done. So let's talk about your forecast. I appreciate all your comments as well. As we go through the next few days, it's rain-free, but we've got rain coming in late Sunday, probably after 5 o'clock in the shoals. And Monday, it's going to be early in the day. So Easter sunrise services will be warm. Temperatures will be in the mid to upper 60s, and the humidity is going to be on the high side. So get ready for that. 81 degrees with storms late for Easter Sunday. So let's go through this hour by hour. The morning hours, again, cloudy. I think the clouds probably rolled in somewhere around the afternoon hours on Saturday. Still no rain, but you're going to notice more humidity out there. May get a few breaks in the clouds, and we'll warm up a little bit more as we head into the afternoon hours. And then here comes 5:30. This is the European model. It's a little bit farther west, and I agree with this a little more because a lot of times it's hard to break the cycle when it's really dry. You've had high pressure to the east, and all this rain is based on is this area high pressure shifting east. Areas of low pressure move a lot faster with the jet stream than areas of high pressure because they're big ridges. So I think this is probably a little bit more accurate as to what we're going to see. The GFS model has this moving in around noon or 1 o'clock. I'm going to keep it held at bay here. We're going to see heavy rainfall once this moves in. A few strong thunderstorms, and you're going to see more posts on social media about the threat for severe weather, but that's right now out west. I don't see any organized severe weather. I can't say we won't have an isolated damaging wind gust from some of the thunderstorms. And some of you looking at this going, oh, it's another overnight event. It's just going to be overnight showers and general thunderstorms coming in. I see Jared's reply here. Vermilion snapper's good. Yes, that's some of the best. I've had some good vermilion snapper fish tacos too. But I will tell you, I've got an interview with the hurricane hunter, and we're going to talk about what it's like to fly in one of those big C-130s and how it all started. I'm working on that video. I should have that coming up for you next week. So grab your popcorn. Get ready for that. Here's your 10-day forecast. Looks pretty typical for April, especially late April. A lot of 80s in there for the high temperatures. Overnight lows get back into the 60s. And at some point, we're going to be in the 60s, and we're just going to stay there. Again, if you missed it earlier, we've had our last frost for the season, and that's good news, you gardeners. The garden centers are really, really busy out there. A lot of people throwing the mulch out. I've been seeing that. The hummingbirds are back, too. So everything says spring. As far as severe weather concerns are, next week, I still don't see anything organized, an outbreak. We're probably seeing a pattern shift out to the west. We may have one or more rounds of severe weather as we head into later in the month and on into early May, kind of like we did last year. I don't think we'll see exactly the same thing. May 8th last year was really an anomaly where we had 21 tornadoes. There were 2 or 3 EF3 tornadoes with that. It just became a very busy day. Again, a lot of hype out there, and you're going to get a lot of hype this week because our weather's practically dead. So again, social media gets really quiet. Shares and all that stuff go way down when the weather's quiet. So you're going to see a lot of people trying to push the envelope, so to speak. But again, I'll see you here tomorrow night, 9:30. I'll be working tomorrow and Friday too. I'll be taking the weekend off though. So they give me the weekend off this weekend. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your viewership.